Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we're on. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in the webinar series. So, you want to open a recovery house? My name is Ken Allegata. I am a person in long-term recovery from alcohol and drugs since November 30th of 1988, and that's a few months. I'm an official old timer, so I'm working on 28 years, God willing. And I'm really glad you're with us today, everyone. And you're here because you're interested in opening a recovery house. And for the next 75 to 90 minutes, that's what we're going to talk about, kind of a 1,000-foot level on the basics of opening and starting a recovery home. And I really hope you're charged with opening this, and your motivator is that you want to give back, you have property or you're seeking property, you know a loved one who had a problem, or you just want to help out, and you want to do. It's kind of like the labor of love, if you will. It's not always to focus on money. However, if you're doing the next right thing, all your money things will follow. So welcome, and let's get started. So your recovery house description: you are a privately owned recovery home. You're not under any state mandate. Like here in Connecticut, we are not oversought by the federal or state. There's no oversight. You're a privately owned recovery home. And that's what you want to remain. You don't want to be governed by state or fed, because you will no longer be a privately owned recovery home. The recovery house residents come from many sources: treatment providers, Department of Corrections, doctors' offices, psychiatrists, and so on, relatives, brothers, sisters, grandma, grandpa, others in recovery, and that's who will be your best advertisement, will advocate for you as these categories. We all are familiar with Department of Corrections has what they call a halfway house, and that's true. And that name, halfway house, over the last 30, 40 years became a household name, kind of like Coca-Cola or Kraft macaroni and cheese or Johnson & Johnson baby powder. Well, we're going to change that halfway house in this arena to the word recovery house. And that's what we want to do. You want to weave in the word recovery as you move along in building your business, and you're putting together brochures and business cards. Try to weave in the word recovery. Recovery home for women, recovery home for men, recovery and wellness home. You could even tie in the word wellness. And the revenue comes from your residents' payment of rent. And in this business, 99% of the homes charge by the week. I think we can understand why. Sometimes it could be a quick moving business. However, what we see is the average stay in a recovery home is approximately 18 months. The person grew up, they got their sea legs on, they got a program going, they're feeling good. 18 months down the road, they want to hook up with some other folks in recovery, maybe rent a house or maybe get married or whatever. So that's the whole preface of this business, is to help folks with their recovery core values, get them on their feet, and let them fly. And like I say in the backyard nesting, let them fledge and make room for the new ones. And there it is. A recovery house is not a halfway house or a hospital-based recovery facility. And usually, the last bullet here, there are no employees working for the recovery house. However, we'll talk about positions like live-in managers. You probably want to have a live-in manager supervisor who oversees your house. It's a great opportunity, business opportunity, and you don't have to be in recovery from alcohol and or drugs to pursue a recovery home. And a lot of the folks we deal with are very successful. They're business people, and some of their stories are that they tell me that, Ken, we've lost a brother, sister, cousin, whatever, from the use of alcohol and or drugs, overdose, fatal overdose. and we want to do something. We've grieved for a couple of years, and we want to give back, and we have some property, and we want to turn it into a recovery home. Can you help us? Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. And these folks truly want to help people in recovery. They really, really do, because they understand. So it's a really unique balance to have people in recovery and what we call the normies, the normal people. We need our normal people. So if there's any normal people on this site right now, thank you. And for my peeps in recovery, thank you too for being here. And that's how we're going to make this work. We all have to work together because we all have talents that we can bring to the table when you're growing your business, in your business meetings and so on. This takes significant time and effort, but it's a great personal satisfaction. The pre-admission criteria is a telephone or face-to-face interview. So it starts with a phone interview. When someone's moving into your or checking out your house via website, our website, or your website. We could talk about that later. They're going to call you and say, "Hey, do you have a bed available?" So you're going to have that first interview by phone. If that works out for you and your manager, then of course you'll schedule a face-to-face interview. And in some cases, we've even seen what we used to call in the old days TC, therapeutic community, where maybe a second or third interview, they have a few minutes beyond the second interview, so they invite a couple of residents from the house into the room to meet this potential person who may move in, and they let them go back and forth a little bit, question and answer, and then they will ask the owner and manager will ask the other residents, how do they feel? Do they have anything? Do they pick up on anything? Do they think the person's telling the truth? Do they really want to, work on their recovery? Because once you build your home and you fill it with people, however how many, that house becomes that person's house. If you know what I mean. They take ownership that that's my house. And they certainly don't want anybody in there that's clowning around or getting drunk or high or creating disruptive behavior. So your residents who have been with you for a while will be your best advocates. If someone's not doing well, hopefully they will speak up and tell the manager, and you can address the issues right away before they get too big. The pre-screening interview allows the homeowner to discuss recovery core values. And we encourage the owners that are new into the business to be part of the intake or interview process in the beginning months, to let these folks know that I, as the owner, I'm speaking sample here, and the manager, sitting two across from one, the potential resident, the owner lets this person know that I'm investing. I'm investing in your recovery, but it's a two-way street. We want to make sure you get your needs met. However, you've got to do the work too. Do we have an agreement? Amen. And then if it all goes well, the person moves in. And you set the tone for future relationships between the candidate and the homeowner. The formal admissions process is your contract agreement. You could find them all over the place. If you need a sample, email me at Ken, K-E-N, @ ccar.us. That's Ken at ccar.us. Email me, and I'll send you a sample contract agreement that you will have with your residents. And you really want to take time when you go over that with the person and let them know that item number so-and-so, if you drink and or use drugs or create disruptive behavior or bring any weapons into the house, you can't stay here. They need to understand that. They cannot stay in that house. We all know why. So here's one of my favorite topics: house rules support recovery. And the rules can be posted throughout the house on a little 8x12 frame. But here's the key word: enforced. You have to enforce your house rules and really make the house rules have meaning, because we all know it could be just cannon fodder. It doesn't mean anything, and nobody really cares. And it's on the wall, but we don't do that here. This place is upside down. Well, that's not what you're going to do. So you're going to let folks know right away that we have house rules, and here's what we have, and that's based on the homeowner's personal values on maintaining recovery. And the homeowner and the manager need to be on the same page. Both of you need to be on the same page when you're applying rules, because resident, we all know this, we've heard this before, client residents will try to split staff. He said, she said, or mommy said this, but daddy said that, and we don't want you getting caught in that. So the manager and the homeowner have their personal value system that they're going to stick to like glue, and that's it. And then that sets the tone for the rest of the house, for the rest of life. So the homeowner's reputation is directly affected by the implementation of house rules. You want your house to be known in your community as a very well-structured home. You certainly don't want people saying in the local 12-step meetings or faith-based group meetings, you don't want people saying, oh, that place is full of drugs, there's inappropriate behavior, the cops are there 5 nights out of 6, it's terrible, don't go there. Well, that's not what you're working for. You're working on a real good reputation in your community to be a very, very good recovery house that supports recovery core values. And there's minimum standards that I'll get into in a little while. And it's real basic, like, adequate refrigeration in the kitchen, a microwave or 2, depending on how many people, 5 people per bathroom, a 4-slice toaster, not a toaster oven, things like that. A TV, a television in the common area. A lot of folks do not suggest placing televisions in rooms, in the bedrooms. Sometimes it creates isolation. So have the TV in the common area. Rule assessments. Okay, resident review and commit to rules. We kind of talked about that. And then rule assessments also should be done to ensure effectiveness. And revisit that too. For instance, your house meeting should be, a lot of them are once a week, and a lot of folks that I'm meeting in the Midwest on the West Coast, they're having 2 to 4 house meetings per week, and it works really well. So they're not waiting. A week could be a long time to hang out an issue that happened on a Sunday night, and the next meeting is not till next Saturday, so that's 6 days away. So you might want to think about that, having more house meetings. If it's 30, 45 minutes to an hour, it's worth it. The house manager usually facilitates the house meeting. It has a little agenda. And on your big bulletin board in the kitchen hallway or somewhere around there, where you have your big whiteboard with all your phone numbers and your Medicaid numbers and the doctor's number and the AA number and the NA number and the church number, have all that stuff. You could also tack on that board an agenda early in the week or prior to the meetings, and give your residents a chance to add their bullets to that agenda, and that creates community and it creates well-being, because everybody wants to be part of the team, correct? We all want to be a part of the team. I'll roll the meatballs, Jimmy's making the salad, Tony's got the pizza in the oven, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? And it creates community. And that's what this whole thing is about, is to support community, camaraderie, get people working together, making friends, working on confidence, self-esteem, and all that good stuff.
Oh.
Okay,
Sorry.
Here we go. Let's continue with house rules. You're establishing a pattern of personal and financial responsibility. What does that mean? If your clients pay rent on Friday night at 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever, then you need to let them know that you expect that rent. I know a lot of people don't like the word expect, but that's what we do here in ABC Recovery House. I'm going to use an example. The rent is due Friday night at 6 o'clock, not Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And what you're doing again is you're fostering good behavior, because a lot of us early in our recovery were pretty emotionally charged. We were not really wanting to play by anybody's rules, because the only rule I knew was to get high and drink. And that's what the disease's job was to get me high, get me drunk, and basically take my life. So I wasn't a very responsible or accountable young man. So in this business, that's what you're doing. You're establishing a real pattern of personal everything. You create a supportive peer environment. Reward systems for earning privileges. And I'm not talking about money rewards, because that could be a very slippery slope. Reward system, here's an example. You might have someone who's been with you for a year living in a double room, and you have a single room that's going to open up in a month, and you'd like to give that person, one of your longtime renters, a chance at that single room. And you know, some people charge for extra, which makes sense for a single room. You could maybe give them a deal, or it depends. It's what you want to do. So, you know, something like that. And you could also use your own creativity on reward systems. Develop family atmosphere and team approach. I talked about that a little bit. Here's an example. Around the holidays, a lot of your recovery houses paying by the week usually don't feed the residents. They're on their own. They got their favorite grocery store, however. They've got a cabinet for storage and the ample refrigeration. Around the holidays, some of the owners and managers get together and they throw in a few bucks to have a meal, a holiday meal, and they let the residents cook the meal. And you're fostering that team, that recovery, that camaraderie, that approach, team approach. And again, I'm making this, you're doing this, he's doing that, she's doing that. Oh yeah, I said he, she. You don't want men and women living in the same house. It's either a man's house or a woman's house. I get that question a lot. If you want to have a Cirque du Soleil on fire, you would do that, but I wouldn't suggest it. And I even get folks that want to have a duplex of the men on one side, women on the other side, and there's been a lot of failures in that. Stick to one. People are going to do what they're going to do. We understand that, but stick to one, either male or female for now. And number one, the last bullet here is safety. That's the number one thing in this business, is safety. So let's talk a little bit more about house rule minimums. Your regular attendance at 12-step meetings, faith-based or other recovery programs. There are numerous pathways of and to recovery, which your clients may be privy to, or you and the house manager can present some of those. There are different pathways of recovery. And by the way, at CCAR, we support multiple pathways of recovery. Sponsorship in the 12-step arena within a designated time frame. Some homeowners like to see their clients have a sponsor in 2 weeks. Some are 30 days. But if it goes too far, it can be again, it could be a slippery slope, and the person starts to isolate and really doesn't take on that ownership of finding a sponsor to help them along in their recovery. I mentioned weekly rent payments, full-time employment. That's the land of perfect. Everybody would be working 9 to 5. We know in today's world that's not the truth all the time. There's second shift and third shift. And what would you do if you had somebody on second shift coming in at midnight or coming in at 6 a.m.? if they've got a really good job coming into you and they're making a reasonable pay, and they get good health insurance, and we certainly don't want them to lose that job, but it's the only shift they can apply to is second or third. That's kind of a case by case. If they could really let you know that they're not going to sneak out and get high on the way home, because you don't want to have to drug screen them after every shift. And the whole thing around drug screening, it's what we call on demand. If you really think you need to drug screen your residents or shake down the whole house, you may have to do that once in a while. But again, the whole preface in recovery housing is about independent living. It's giving me a chance to put on my big boy pants, grow up, work on my recovery, make some friends, like-minded friends in recovery, and start to make those changes and get all kinds of other support and just be a good kid, be a good guy, make those changes. So you want that person to let you know that they're doing a really good job. When they come home off that shift, they have to wind down a little bit and then go to sleep. So we've got a few cases that we've seen out this way where that works okay. Works okay. Attendance at regularly scheduled house meetings, we mentioned that. Could be more than one meeting a week. I met a few that were 3 and 4 house meetings per week. Curfew, limitations on overnight or visits. Let me be very particular here that nobody stays in your house other than your residents on an overnight. The house belongs to your residents, not to guests for overnights. If they're going away on Christmas or Thanksgiving or other holidays, if you furlough them out for the weekend, that's fine. That's fine. And in those episodes, a lot of the homeowners do drug screen when they come back in from a 2 to 4 day break, if you will. They do drug screen them coming back in. The probation period, that's an idea that you can work with. Some folks have a 90-day, like they'll say to the client, we need you to stay here in this house for 90 days. And they have a sober or recovery deposit. And for instance, it's 2 or 3 weeks of rent, upfront cost. And if the person breaks the 90-day period and they terminate themselves, they do not get a refund. However, if they make that 90 days and beyond, and in a year or 18 months, 2 years, they decide to leave, they are entitled to that money back. That's part of your agreement. That's case by case. There's no real template that says what you need to do. What we see here is a lot of folks that ask for 2 weeks rent, which is not a big showstopper. The average rent that we deal with is about $160 a week. It could be as low as $100. It could be high as $200 a week. So it's not a whole lot of money, 2 weeks to move in, and then the following couple weeks they'll figure out a starting date to start the weekly rent. We also have the affluent neighborhoods in New England who are charging $11,000 to $12,000 or $10,000 to $12,000 per month, and that's out there. So it's not for me to judge or for us to judge. People have that kind of money. They want to live in a small mansion, and they get lots of different types of services, including some therapy probably. So mostly what we deal with are the $150 to $200 range out here in Connecticut. But again, we do have the affluent neighborhoods who want to have that type of living. We talked about a little bit about the reward system. You can give somebody a single room, maybe for a couple bucks, or you could gift it to them after staying in a double room. You could also do other things like have a little barbecue in the summertime or a Christmas party or a holiday party, kind of a reward system. The house is going well. Everybody's chores are done. The grass is mowed. The steps are clean. You could put down a little gathering, kind of like a add-a-girl, add-a-boy party, and just to let everybody know that you appreciate um, their hard work. And that goes a long way. That'll go a long way. And we talked about drug or alcohol screen on demand. The notice of intent to vacate or remove personal belongings. If someone leaves your home because they're in relapse, they probably don't care about some old shoes and a couple pillowcases and some dirty jeans. So if they've got a black bag full of stuff, you can throw that in the charity boxes at 2 weeks, 14 days. Because if you don't, and they need to know that when they move in, that if they leave or terminate, we can after 14 days no longer hold on to your personal belongings. We can't do that. Because we have folks call me and saying, well, I stopped by the house the other day and I had to leave. I stopped by to get my grandmother's watch that she gave me, and it wasn't there. And I asked the young lady when she was at the house, when did she leave? And she said 9 months ago. Well, nobody could be held responsible for 9 months. No. So let your folks know that if they're terminated or they voluntarily leave or are in relapse and they just disappear, you can't no longer hold on to their stuff after two weeks. And if you want, you can donate it to some cause out there. So let's prepare for business. Let's start there. And on your admissions form, when you type up an admissions form, make sure you have an emergency contact information for everybody that moves in. And you won't be doing a lot of filing, by the way. You'll probably have a few folders in one drawer, and that's it. You're not a treatment center. You're not a hospital. You're not a doctor's office. So you'll have minimum paperwork. You'll probably have anything that they want to file for you to file for them under lock and key. The agreement, and maybe a couple of other things, and the house rules, and that's pretty much it. You know, you're not going to have a big file. But the emergency contact info is important. If you have a death in your house, it could be from a cardiac arrest, it could be from a fatal overdose, whatever. You want to be able to have emergency contact information. Your house rules, your contract, rent payments, rules, and amenities. I talk about a lot of that. A grievance policy. Everybody has a grievance policy. Internally in the house, you know, in your weekly meetings, your house meetings with your clients, you will have a lot of grievances. You know, like somebody's not cleaning around the toilet, somebody's got toothpaste all over the sink, somebody smells different. You're going to get a lot of little stuff, what we call little arguments and little complaints. That can be leveled off and talked about in a good forum in the business, the house meeting, weekly house meetings, which is usually again led by the house manager and to someone to facilitate that. So if there's a bigger grievance about the house and you're in a state that's a NAR affiliate. NAR is the National Alliance for Recovery Residences, and if your state is an affiliate and you become an associate to the affiliate, for instance, CCAR, we are the NAR affiliate for Connecticut. There can only be one affiliate, NAR affiliate per state. So, for instance, we're certifying houses, and if that house doesn't like something that we're doing or whatever, we will bring that grievance. That goes a step higher, and we would bring that grievance to the coalition meetings, so on and so forth, and talk about that. We've got a policy in place to talk about how to handle that, meet with the owner, everything's above board, and what do we need to do to fix this and correct this on both sides of the fence. You also want to have a discharge policy. You know what happens if you got a discharge policy. You got to discharge someone. So have that policy in place. A lot of this stuff you can get off the internet. You can get template language off the internet. And again, for your agreement, if you need that, I'll email me at ken@ccar.us and I'll send you a few-page agreement that you can use. You can definitely use it. So let's continue to prepare for business. On the left, this is what we call the level 2. NAR, the National Alliance for Recovery Residences, has 4 levels of support. What we deal with in Connecticut is level 2. What does level 2 mean? If I'm a level 2 house, basically, I have a manager slash supervisor that lives in the house, someone who's been in recovery for a little while, and that person will oversee the house. This person usually receives free rent or a private room. In a lot of cases, it's not free rent, it's a deal. Like they'll give them a deal because the owner will give them maybe half off or something because they're working on the house and they're working. They have a job, so they're pretty busy overseeing the house, making sure everything's happening. Because your manager has to be very much in the client's life. If the clients are not sleeping, they're either working, doing chores, at a meeting, or visiting family. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room time to get stinking thinking. Somebody's grandma said, an idle mind is the devil's playground, and there's a lot of truth to that. The planning needs to be done to be sure the home continues to operate. I said this earlier. The owner and the manager must be on the same page. Those 2 or 3 people need to talk a lot. Every couple days, or maybe every day in the first few months of the business, they need to be on the same page. Okay? Assist the owner in maintaining safe recovery environment. Usually in recovery, the house manager should be in recovery to speak the same language as the clients, and acts as a role model and mentor to residents. And the manager follows all house rules too, including maintaining full-time employment, at least 30 to 35 hours a week, in the land of perfect. Now, on your right side, you have the democratically run, we know as the Oxford House model. And the residents run the house. God bless them. They've been around for a long time. Sometimes I don't know how they do it, but they're doing it. And I know folks that have stayed in Oxford houses, and I hear both sides of the story, but it's not for us to police anybody, really. The house membership is responsible for all household expenses. The house must immediately expel any member who uses alcohol or drugs. Pretty much the same thing we're doing on the left side of the level 2. And the NAR levels of support, the 4 levels of support, Oxford House and Democratic, that's level 1. We are level 2, the house manager live in. And levels 3 and 4, by the way, you start entering the medical treatment model. You're a facility, you have medical staff, and that's not what we do here in Connecticut. We focus basically wholly actually on level 2. Okay, what happens when you have a non-compliant? And some of you may have to get involved in an eviction process. They tell me it's not as long, and they tell me it's no longer 9 months to a year, but I still think it's a lengthy process to evict somebody. Now, there's consequence for breaking house rules. The residents learn responsibility for their own behavior. Again, it's time for me to grow up and be accountable and responsible for what I do and what I say. I can get trainings. I've got the 12-step community meetings. I've got therapy sometimes, and I'm talking to other guys that and you're just helping each other out. The consequences are usually case by case, except for severe infractions that may result in immediate eviction. Removal of reward or privilege, or maintain same chore until done adequately. These are just ideas. What do you do when you have somebody who's not doing well or behaving well? The continuous breaking of house rules could result in eviction. Now, if somebody's relapsing, they certainly don't want to stick around with a few other people that are working very hard on their recovery, because you will be a buzzkill for that person. So they usually take off. They usually leave on their own. Again, they don't want to be around there. They're getting high or they're drinking. And it just doesn't make sense for them to stay in that recovery home. But periodically you'll hear of a case where somebody called a squatter. They would not leave. They would not move off the couch. They were getting high and drinking, and they told the owner, evict me. Go ahead and evict me. So it took a little while. But again, this doesn't happen that often. It really, really doesn't. It's kind of a one of those things in karma in life where the person's not going to stick around if they're getting high with a bunch of people looking at them going, what do we got here? When everybody else is working hard, trying to stay sober and do the next right thing. So the eviction and break promise to stay clean and sober. A resident usually leaves on their own. Okay, may require immediate eviction. Alcohol or drug use on or off premises, stealing, weapons, disruptive behavior, physical or verbal hostility. All those things are eviction termination. The homeowner often assists the resident in getting treatment or alternative housing. We had a gentleman, a manager, who knew somebody was getting high in the home, so he nicely called him into this little office, and the manager had the drug screen cup on the desk in front of him, sitting there, and he just remained silent. And the gentleman walked in, he looked down at the desk and saw the drug screen kit there. The manager remained silent, and the gentleman said, I know what that is. I'm high right now. You don't even have to use it. So he saved $10, put it back in inventory, the drug screen cup. And now we have a conversation. The manager can now say, what would you like to do? Would you like to go to treatment, go back to treatment? And if the answer is yes, a couple guys get in the car, they take the person over to the hospital, i.e. treatment, and on the way over, the gentleman asked, can he come back to the house because he really liked it and he's really sorry that he relapsed? And you're not in the business, I bring this up because you're not in the business of saving beds. You're going to need to pay your bills, and you're going to need to keep your beds full. It's wonderful to be a wonderful person and want to give back and everything in this business, but you're going to have a business and you're going to have bills, and there's a fine line. So the manager told the gentleman on the way to treatment, he said, listen, get your 30 days clean and give us a call. A lot of the houses ask for 30 days clean before people move in, by the way. Some I've seen 2 weeks, 14 days, before people can move in. If you have a really good running house, a really good program in your house with a lot of interaction, all kinds of recovery stuff, there's a ton of stuff out there that you can do. And you could do that. You can have people moving in at 14 days. Are they going to be a little shaky? Absolutely. I was. I think I calmed down after about 11 months, and I realized that it's true what they say. It takes a few years to really get your mind clear and get your sea legs on, and you start to grow up, and you start to be honest and keep doing the next right thing. So if the person breaks the promise to stay clean and sober, they usually leave on their own, like I said. So yeah, if they want to go to treatment, what if they say no, that I'm out of here? Then if they leave, they leave. But they can't stay there. We have a gentleman, one of the houses on the East Coast. Resident was very, very drunk on alcohol, and this gentleman has a couch in a room. He calls it the sleep-off couch. And if he's dealing with somebody who's really intoxicated from alcohol, as we know, you really can't talk to folks who are under the weather. So, in the middle of a storm. So he lets him sleep it off on the couch, because you really can't throw somebody out in January when it's 3 degrees outside. It could be risky. So he lets him sleep it off, and they just continue the conversation in the morning. So that's a pretty good idea. I'm not saying you have to do that, but and because what folks do is say, the person says, well, I know I'm high, I know I'm drinking, but where am I going to go? Well, of course, you should have thought of that before you picked up but we understand addiction. So, and we hate to say, here's the number to the shelter, because before the sun goes down in the wintertime, the shelters are full, and it's a tough business. So be involved in your person's life. Be really involved in their life. So a difficult eviction, changing locks, moving out furniture. I don't know. I still didn't take that out yet. You don't have to move any furniture out. I'm going to change that slide. The homeowner should have a strategy in place to deal with difficult evictions. Quick story, we had a town where somebody was drinking and he wouldn't leave, and he's behind his rent, and 2 months behind in rent, and they were trying to help him out, and time went on, and the other persons in the house were getting very mad, and your morale is going to take a big nosedive. So they called the cops, and the cops came over, and the 2 police officers told the manager, if you remove his belongings, we will arrest you. Oh, whoa, wait a minute, I'm the manager here. How could you arrest me? So they waited for second shift. Those 2 officers left. The manager waited for second shift to begin later that evening. And he called again, and a male and female officer came to the house and said, what's going on? Well, he can't live here. It's a recovery home. And he had the agreement, by the way. The manager pulled the agreement out of the file cabinet for, we'll say the person's name is Tony, and showed the first 2 officers and showed the second 2 officers the agreement. And the officers put the agreement in front of Tony's face, even though he was intoxicated. They said, is that your signature? And he shook his head yes. And they said, you got to leave. So what we had there was 2 different stories from the same police department on a shift change. So what did we do as a coalition for recovery houses in Connecticut? Because again, no pun intended, we cannot police recovery homes in the state. We can't do that. We can't, that's not our lane. But what we did is we called the police department and asked for a meeting. We set a date and went down there to show them what we're doing with recovery housing. And it's an opportunity for everybody to understand what we're all doing. And then they understand the process. But if somebody, really sits out and says, evict me, then unfortunately you're going to have to start that grueling process of eviction. Let's talk about what they say in retail: location, location, location. You want your house near a bus line, parole, relapse prevention, social services, hospitals, proximity to 12-step, faith-based, and other programs, lots of employment. You're on a main drag or close to a main drag. There might be a bus route or 2, and you want to have adequate parking for registered and insured vehicles. You might have a couple of cars moving in with you, and your residents may have transportation. A lot don't for a little while. They might be suffering from a DUI, but a lot of them do have a car. But make sure the car has a plate on it, it's registered, it's insured, because if it doesn't have a plate on it, you're probably going to get a knock on the door from somebody from City Hall asking what the story is for that car. And then another thing is, too, if you have 8 or 10 beds and you've got 8 or 10 cars, you don't want if you're in an R1 neighborhood, you don't want all your residents parking, just jamming up both sides of the street right in front of the house. Some of the good neighbor policy we talk about in the NAR meetings is to spread the vehicles out, because the neighbors are going to be very frustrated that their company can't park there, or they can't park there, or their kids can't park there. So we have to be a good neighbor. Which brings to mind, before you open your recovery house, you might want to invite some folks like the folks from City Hall, maybe the building inspector. Have an open house before you really turn the key, and make some cookies and coffee, or get a cheese pizza and throw it on the table. And what you want to do is invite folks, invite your neighbors, invite City Hall, invite local treatment, anybody you could think of that might have a relative role in supporting your recovery house. And if you do that, trust me, that's going to go a long way. And that's called the good neighbor policy. In the wintertime, we had a call from an old woman who lived by herself. and she had no heat. She couldn't afford oil. And she was wearing a coat, hat, and gloves in her house all by herself. So a new woman's recovery home opened up 4 doors down, and the ladies in the recovery house made cookies on Christmas Eve, took a broom and a shovel, and walked down there and swept the snow off her front steps, gave her the cookies, and wished her a happy holiday. Now that's some good stuff. You could be active in your town. Your residents could be active at the local soup kitchen. They could help out on Christmas and Thanksgiving. They could help out when there's a local walk or run or bike. They could help out. Ask the folks that are running the events, do you need some volunteer help? Get your folks involved. There's many, many ways you could play out the good neighbor policy, because you want everyone to know that what you're doing, and invite them in to see the house, and let them see the bedrooms, and let them see, what we do here, and that we go to meetings. And I'm telling you that good neighbor policy is going to go a long, long way. Because in the beginning of this business years ago, a lot of that did not happen. And then along came NIMBY. We all know NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard. Those darn drug addicts, those damn alcoholics, we don't want them here. Well, that's all changing, and we need that to change. So we've got a good neighbor policy. So let's go to the next slide. Your structure and layout. If you're in a single dwelling, a single home, check out your building codes on either their website, City Hall website. Your zoning is probably pretty simple. You're in a residential neighborhood. But check out the building code. What we're seeing is a lot of these building codes are stating that there could be no more than 4 or maybe 6 unrelated people living in the house. They may make stonewall you on saying you need this, you need that. If you really feel like you're getting harassed, and if you're in Connecticut, call me. If you're in any other state on this call, check to see if your state is a NAR affiliate and talk to NAR if you're getting harassed. And NAR, by the way, is lowercase. Write this down. Lowercase website, NAR, N-A-R-R, online.org. All one word, N-A-R-R, online.org. And you can call NAR and say, hey, we're being harassed. They want us to put in a $20,000 sprinkler system. They're just trying to stonewall us. There's a lot of discrimination against folks trying to open recovery houses. We know that. And it's against the law. It's a federal, you have federal protection by the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. They're in your corner. And the Fair Housing Trade Agreement is in your corner. And there's another great article from our friends in Washington, D.C., HHS, Health and Human Services. There's an article, I think the title is, If You Are in Recovery, People in Recovery Have Rights. If you Google that or Bing that, you'll find it. HHS, People in Recovery Have Rights. And you've got plenty of clout and credibility, and they cannot stop you if you're doing this properly, and you have a home or a duplex or a small apartment building, and you're following the fire codes and the zoning and the building codes. Because in the, I call it their big books down at City Hall, they don't have the word recovery house. They have rooming, boarding, multifamily. Those are the titles. And they try to pigeonhole recovery homes into one of those other categories, and that's not the case. So if you have the capacity, if your house has the capacity for 8 to 12 beds, no more than 2 per room, and maybe 1 or 2 singles, 1 for your manager. Anyway, and they try to stonewall you on that. You gotta check to see if your state is an NAR affiliate, and have them check that out. Get some guidance on that, because that's discrimination. Or if you're in Connecticut, call me. Okay. So another thing is the bathrooms. No more than 5 people per bathroom. It could be a shower stall, a toilet, and a sink. 5 people. So if you've got 15 people in that house, you need 3 bathrooms, shower stall and or tub. You don't have to have a tub, a sink and a toilet. Your kitchen should also have, if you've got 8 to 10 people living in that house, 8 to 10 people should be able to have spaghetti and meatballs together in the kitchen. Ample table, plenty of chairs. Again, you're building community. You don't want to separate people. You want to build community. A lot of us didn't even realize how many people were trying to help us along the way by inviting us to the table or being involved in something, or how would you like to do this, or how would you like to work the door, or oh, you play music, great, you can play the piano. Oh, you can cook, great, can you make chicken cutlets? So you want to tap into people's creativity and their talents and foster that community within the house. The condition of the home. Excuse me. Let's say the renovation dollars won't be available to furnish a facility. So many homeowners have a buddy or a brother or a sister who's a carpenter, electrician, or a plumber. A lot of folks in recovery have skills. I'll admit that I've had men and women work on my property, my home. I do not have a recovery home, but my private home, my friends in recovery. One's a plumber, one's an electrician. I pay them their rates. I don't ask for any recovery discounts. That's not fair. So many homeowners do their own renovations. And check out your local liquidation, furniture liquidation, like hotel liquidation. They got some really nice stuff. You might have a ding or two, but I've seen in houses here in Connecticut beautiful wood, giant wood dinette, dining room sets with beautiful wood chairs. You can buy vanities if you need to replace a vanity in the bathroom. All kinds of really cool stuff to help you. Bed frames, because you probably want to go with new mattresses, single mattresses. And also check out bed bug stuff on the website. Bed bug furniture or bed bug covers, things like that. A lot of good stuff out there. But definitely check out the liquidation, furniture liquidation. Good stuff. So when do we do this? When do we purchase this house? Well, your winter months, we all know, provide the highest occupancy rate. Here at CCAR, I get about an average of 55 calls a week, starting in the end of October, early November. That's an average. I've had 80 calls in a week. A lot of them were folks coming out of DOC. A lot of them were folks coming out of treatment. And out of that percentage, or that average, I would say 75%, which is very sad to say, did not have any funds to move into a recovery house. So it's heartbreaking. You know, we would love to have just one big giant system that pays for everything, but that's not the world we live in. And you can't send everybody to a shelter. And you know, what do you do? So that's the $1,000,000 question. So the ones who do have a job or are going to get a job, we try to help them out and get placed. So the optimal time to open your house is prior to winter, if you can do that. So let's say today is June 16th. You've got a few months. If you're going to thinking about starting this fall, you've got plenty of time, hopefully. Okay, but that last bullet is what I just said. Allow time to prepare the home for residency. So your marketing strategies, again, you want to be, word of mouth is really good. You're going to have residents in your home going to their meetings in the evenings and some weekend days. And they're going to see somebody or meet somebody that's new, coming out of treatment and first meeting, blah, blah, blah. And that person might be raising their hand saying, my name is Ken and I don't have a place to stay. My parents said I can't stay there. So there's nothing wrong if your clients, men or women, approach that person at break time or after the meeting and say, hey, we're staying at ABC House down the street and there's 2 beds open. Here, call the manager. Here's the number. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a word of mouth. It's okay. It's not breaking any traditions. So you want to develop community contacts. Everybody, from the laundromat to the police department. Again, that open house that you're going to do with the homemade pizza and the iced tea, that's going to be a home run because you've opened your heart, you've opened your home, and you want to go to all these places and tell them what you're doing. Your nearby rehab facilities, detox units, halfway houses, that's DOC. You can go there. Hospitals, church groups, state agencies. You can make a real simple trifold or bifold brochure about your place with some pictures. You could do it real expensive, get some business cards. You could do that yourself and pass these things out. You're going to have to market every couple months, go back to the same people. The ideal thing is to get a couple of referral resources from your local, if you have a local treatment center. That would be great. That would be great. But you could also create your own website. And that last bullet, is your state a NAR affiliate? And if you are, you can go on their listing. In Connecticut, we're starting a new website. We're going to remain with the domain findrecoveryhousing.com, but this summer it's going to be listings of certified recovery homes only in Connecticut. And we're doing this because, and you need to know this, that we're doing this because it's the only way we're going to get around the not so healthy recovery houses, if you know what I mean. And I don't want to call them recovery houses, sober houses, flop houses, because again, there's no state or federal oversight of recovery housing in Connecticut. The being a NAR affiliate and having a certification process and a recovery housing coalition, that's the next best thing we can do. The next best thing, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So again, your federal regs affecting recovery homes, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, the Fair Housing Amendment, and HHS, Health and Human Services article, people in recovery have rights. Avoid discrimination issues. I put that bullet in here because something happened many moons ago. And when you're doing an intake and you're going over the contract agreement and the rules and make sure, underline, make sure you're asking the same questions to each and every person that comes into your home. Do not divide it. The same questions. So have a scripted questions on your contract's going to be one contract. We just wanted to let you know. Same questions for everybody, and you'll avoid any discrimination issues. So again, question asked, ask everybody. All right, your zoning. I was talking about this earlier. Either you're a multi, a single, a boarding home, etc. Check out on their City Hall website. Look for building codes, because that's the one that's you'll find it'll say no more than 6 unrelated persons can live in this boarding home or this single dwelling or something like that. So check that out. If you need a variance to operate, your town will let you know. And what does that mean? For instance, in Connecticut, every town in Connecticut is different. There's nothing the same across the board in Connecticut. They may say that I need a wheelchair ramp. Well, we're not going to be having any wheelchairs here. Okay, well, we still need to have it because it's a recovery house or something like that. That's just an example. It's kind of a forced hand variance. So make sure you do a little homework. Check out the website, your city, town clerk's office, and make sure you drill down. And if you have any questions, again, if you're a NAR affiliate, talk to them. And if you're with Connecticut, talk to me. Yeah, I just said it. Okay. Does the home currently meet specs? Basically, if you're set to go, you have your smoke alarms, you have your fire extinguishers, and if you do have fire extinguishers, please make sure they're mounted on the wall. It's a little metal bracket. Have exit signs, not the fancy lit up ones. You could have the cardboard or foil exit signs over the door. Do have an evacuation plan, a little 8x11 plan, and bring that to the one of your first, when you're all staffed up and manned up and womaned up. Bring that to one of your first couple of house meetings and go over that. And you might want to have a fire drill and make sure everybody knows, and you get new folks moving in every few months, make sure that everybody understands that this house is committed to number one, and that's safety. And we need to make sure that if there's a fire, that everybody gets out safely and on time. We had one or two very bad incidents this year in the last few years. People not telling us that they were opening. They didn't follow any rules. They were just taking people's money. And there was a gentleman in an attic and he couldn't get out, and he died in the fire, in a house fire. So you don't want to be subject to that. And I'm going to throw in insurance too. That's probably not on here. When you're getting ready, call your insurance agent and tell that person exactly what you're doing. Tell them that you're opening a recovery house for men or women. And everybody needs general liability, and that's going to cover your, I fell on the stairs and skinned my knee, I broke my arm. The crack in the sidewalk, I tripped and smacked my head. That's going to cover all that. And no, you probably know that all insurance companies have a law firm. But I would encourage you to ratchet up your insurance to other than general. General is general. It's like level 1. I would talk to your agent and tell them what you're doing and tell them that you want to beef it up a little more. And it's worth a couple $1,000s a year, I'm telling you. It really, really is. And we're learning this trial by fire in the nation. So everybody needs general, but I would go a little bit higher if it was me opening the house. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So, if you're going to go into business, your state, you got to check to see what your state requires. A lot of folks here, we have one or two nonprofits, but we have most folks going limited liability. But if you don't want to be a sole proprietorship, probably, because if something happened and you got sued, you don't want your personal belongings to be taken from you. So that's why you probably want to go limited, unless you're a corporation. But do check out limited liability in your area. Go online again and get some information about that. It sounds simple, but there might be some guidelines around recovery housing, and you might want to try to check that out. But most folks here do go LLC, limited liability. You may have an accountant in the family. You may have a lawyer in the family. And ask them to look over your stuff, your financials, and your lawyer friend could look over the types of stuff related to Recovery House. If you need insurance, if you need law, NAR can help you. They have people that work for Nationwide, and they specialize in recovery housing insurance. And there's also a law firm that specializes in anything related to recovery housing. So we have a lot of contacts nationwide. And NAR, by the way, is approaching, I think, 22, 23 states. The couple of states they're working on affiliating right now are New England, which we're happy about, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. Massachusetts was the most recent, just a couple of months ago, became a NAR affiliate. And we're happy about that. So we're going to continue to keep the FindRecoveryHousing.com that we created almost 15 years ago. We sought the opportunity to launch this website. People were coming out of treatment. They were coming out of DOC. They were coming out of whatever. And they were calling CCAR here and saying, hey, I need a place to stay. And we didn't know what to do. So we got all these calls and we're going, wait a minute. Let's make a website for $30 a year. Anybody in the world can list their house on our website, FindRecoveryHousing.com. And it's still up and running, but it's going to be shut down after 15 years almost, because we no longer need to be nationwide. And here's why. Because NAR is growing, National Alliance for Recovery Residences. And as NAR grows state to state, the states can have their own little listing of recovery houses, a little website. So we don't need to be the national anymore website. We're going to focus on Connecticut only and certified homes only. It's an application process, and that's what we're doing. And if the application looks good, they have a pretty small dues, annual dues. We go out and inspect the house. Everything looks good. The third step, put them on the website and drive all that business right to that house. So, and like I said earlier, it's the only way we're going to get around some of these unhealthy homes. So you may have your own website. You could do that. Your state may be in our affiliate. I said that 5 times, which is National Alliance for Recovery Residents, and that's their website address, www.naronline.com. Dave Sheridan is the president. He's from California. Dave is a wealth of knowledge. He's helped us tremendously. A little piece of history. Back in 2004, CCAR is a co-founder of NAR. CCAR created the minimum standards for single dwellings of recovery houses. So NAR saw our little thing about minimum standards on our website, and they gave us a call and they said, hey, can we use this? And we said, absolutely. So 2010 is when NAR really came fast and furious up and running and created the 4 levels of support that you could look at online. We're just happy to be part of this national alliance because we all speak the same language and we all want the same thing. We want safe, affordable recovery housing that supports the residents' recovery core values. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. So we really want to hook up to that. I really hope you folks got some takeaways from this. And we could open it up now. You can type in your questions. I'll read any questions, and then I'll do the best I can to answer them. And here's my contact info. And feel free to contact me anytime. So any questions? There's no silly questions. Anything at all that you can think of, or any comments? Any questions? Any questions at all? Where? Okay, we got a couple folks typing in. We'll give them a second. I'll read the questions and answer the best I can. And if I don't have an answer, I'll go bird dog one for you. Crystal writes, do you accept people who get SSI, Social Security checks? In our experience, Crystal, recovery houses, I guess it's case by case, I don't know. But yes, in my experiences, yes, they do accept folks with SSI. As long as they can, cover the rent. And Deb writes, are we protected by the ADA as far as zoning in certain areas and towns? And the question to Deb is yes. Certain areas, certain towns, it doesn't matter. It's one nation under God. And ADA and the Fair Housing Agreement and NAR will come to your rescue, if you will. If you have any trouble and you're getting stonewalled by your city or town, we need to know about it. We need to know about it right away. And we can raise the flag to the national folks, the NAR folks. I hope that answered it. Deb said, excellent. What if our house is across the street from an elementary school? Then I would invite all the kids over and the teachers over for cupcakes and their parents. Good neighbor policy. Use that term, folks. We foster good neighbor policy, and we could even help. If you want us to help in any way in your school functions or your bake sales or shoveling snow or whatever, let us know. We're here to help you. We have to stop thinking that we're bad people. We're not bad people. People in recovery are great people. You know, um, look at all the celebrities in recovery that are doing great things in the spirit of recovery. They're giving back. They have the funds to do that. So I hope that answered that Deb's question. Deb is typing. What about cons on parole? Is that allowed near the school? Here's what I do know, Deb. Sex offenders are not going to be allowed anywhere near the school. And here's what I know, that I don't know of any recovery home in Connecticut yet that accepts sex offenders. So I would check with if you want to research just a little bit, you could check with parole. But I don't even think they'll have an answer. You know, and there's another thing too. There's an anonymity component where they may know that you're a recovery house, but they don't have to drill down that deep and know about everybody's personal business that lives in that house. So, but it would be a good discussion topic, Deb. Thank you, Deb says, and thank you, Crystal. No silly questions, folks. We have a few minutes. Any questions? Or contact me at ken@ccard.us.us or call me. The number's there on the screen. Crystal's typing, and Deb is typing. Give them a second. Deb said, did I answer Crystal's question? Was that about people with SSI? Often
people who get SSI will not have full-time employment.
Right. That's okay. If they're getting SSI and they have enough money to cover it, I don't think it's a problem. I know folks on SSI and SSDI that live in recovery houses in Connecticut. Did that? Okay, that's the ones who can't work. Crystal said, what did you say your rates are? Are there places that offer any meals? When you're, the recovery homes here, Crystal, are individually owned. They're privately owned recovery homes. Most of them do not offer food. There are ones who offer food, but they're pretty pricey. They could be, you know, starting at $3,500 a month to live there, with meals and some case management and so on. So we don't govern the rates. What we do is help folks with, you know, the beginning phases on how to open a recovery house. And we could, you know, and once they do open their house and they want to join the NAR, the whole CCAR NAR thing, certification, once they apply and they certify, they're automatically hooked up to a housing coalition in Connecticut. And those meetings are going to be power-packed with a lot of experienced people in the business that can help others coming into the business, be a good mentorship on helping them on the do's and don'ts and with pricing. They can use their own examples and help people on pricing. We know that the average rent per week in a recovery house in Connecticut is about $160. It could be as low as $100. Like, for instance, I know that Oxford House is $110 a week. They don't feed you. It's $110 a week for rent. I think I mentioned I just met a couple last week that are opening a place in southern Connecticut. It's going to be close to $12,000 a month. $12,000 a month to open to live in that house. So you've got quite an array. I hope I answered those questions for Deb and Crystal. Anybody else? Any questions? No silly questions. Okay, Deb's typing. Let's give her a second. And Crystal's typing. Deb says, I always have questions. That's good. Is it hard to get approval for basic needs and ATR? Okay, here's what I know. The Connecticut State Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, known as DEMHS, the acronym DEMHS, periodically will put out an RFP, a request for proposal, for ATR and basic needs, and they have a couple other programs. Right now, I don't know of any that are out there on the street to respond to. I know it's not a lot of money that you're going to get for a bed, maybe $500 a month. And it's only, these programs, by the way, as some of you know, are only up to 60 days of rent assistance. So, but you could certainly check on DEMHS's website. Look for proposals on DEMHS's website. And another one is Advanced Behavioral Health in Middletown. ABH, they're known as ABH, Advanced Behavioral Health. Advanced Behavioral Health is an ASO. They are an administrative services organization that oversee state contracts. And they do, ABH does, oversee ATR and basic needs, recovery support for DEMHS. They are contracted by DEMHS to oversee those programs. And again, it's only 60 days. Crystal says, I noticed on the website that there is a companion book that you offer. Would you recommend that in addition to this webinar? Is that the PATH, the PATH book? If you're ready to open your house, you could always buy it at any time for $30 from our recovery store, if that's the one we're talking about. Deb says, sorry, why would we need an ASO? Who pays for the ASO services? That's a good question, Deb. That came up about 20 years ago, too. The Department of Mental Health could no way, shape, or form be able to oversee all these contracts at one time. So they have folks like Value Options, i.e. Beacon Health is their new name. They oversee Medicaid, Husky, LEA, low-income adult, and ABH oversees ATR and BMP. And back in the day when I worked for ABH, I was the provider relations director for ABH on SAGA. A lot of you remember SAGA, State Administered General Assistance, was overseen by ABH, big contract. 600,000 clients on the behavioral health side, and some of you know that CHN was the medical side, and they had about 800,000 clients. So you put the two together, and you're about 1 million and plus. So that's a lot of clients for one state agency. So they had to contract an ASO. And who pays for the ASO? That's part of the contract with DEMHS. So that all comes from where? The state. But it's all gone now. It's all federal dollars. It's no longer Connecticut dollars. I know I'm going off topic here. That's old history. So now it's Medicaid, federal. Okay, Deb's typing. I'm not sure what Deb's talking about here. Deb, no, they have nothing to do with recovery housing. Let's talk offline if you want to know more about ASO. Crystal writes, what do you recommend if you are in a state that does not have NAR yet? I would recommend that you get fired up, call NAR and say, I want to be the affiliate. If you have a recovery house, you could start to get help and be the affiliate and get some other folks with you. Why not? Check around. Thank you. And Deb says, okay. Yeah, Deb, we can talk offline about the ASO. It has nothing to do with the house. It's only the services in the house. Some of these houses contract with Demas, and they commit 2 or 4 beds. You can't commit your whole house to a state contract. You want to have private pay. That's you'll be in better position if you have private pay. Get folks working, they pay their rent, everybody's doing good. That's what we want. Any other questions? Okay, Crystal and Deb are typing again. Okay, Deb, thank you. Crystal says, can you speak to some of the other expenses for the owner, other than rent and utilities and initial furnishings? Well, it depends on which way you go, Crystal. Are you going to take on a mortgage? Be really careful. Are you going to have, you're going to have, do you have to pay for water in your town? Trash? There's other things to think about, just like owning a home. Taxes. Yeah, Deb says drug tests. Yeah, drug tests. The cups could be from $8 to $15 for a drug kit. And you want to do on-demand drug screening, like we talked about. You don't have to do it all the time. If you really think you need to do that, that's fine. So yeah, you don't want to get strapped with a big mortgage, Crystal. And here's what I know: if you have to have a plan B, because if this does not work out, if your recovery house after 2 years is not working for you, what are you going to do? You can rent the house. Somebody will scoop it up, or you sell it. So you got to have a plan B if it doesn't work out. Did that answer it? Okay, Crystal, good. Thank you. Yeah, you got to make a spreadsheet of everything you can think of in running that house. Everything. And you want to have slush fund. Rainy day fund if a water heater blows up, or you got a leaky roof, or repairs. You got to have a little bit in the bank for that. Deb's typing. Deb says, pretend you're packing for camping. What would you need? Bug spray. Laugh out loud, Deb says. Bring a raincoat. Bring a shovel. Tools, lawnmower, etc. Very good, Deb. And that's all part of chores too. Your residents are going to do the chores, right? They're all going to have a chore board, and you could do it by the week, by the month. That's all, what you want to do in your house. But everybody has a chore. Toilet paper and paper towels, that's a good question, Deb. A lot of the owners supply that, and a lot of them don't. Once the coalition gets growing again via membership, the Housing Coalition in Connecticut, they could do a purchasing power. What that is they buy a large order, get a big discount, and they split the order up on all kinds of things: drug kits, mattresses, paper products, cleaning products, pillows, sheets. Some folks do a guest package. They give you a tiny laundry basket, a set of sheets, a couple pillows, or 1 or 2 pillows, things like that. You can be creative. And you let the person know that this is your starting kit. We're going to give you this set of sheets. You're going to have to wash them. But this, if anything happens to it, you're on your own. You're on your own. And laundry is another thing. You could have laundry. If you're going to have laundry, make sure you build that into your weekly rent price. Or if there's a laundromat across the street or down the street, might want to go that route. What we're finding out that coin-operated machines are a pain in the butt and you don't make a lot of money compared to your heat and hot water, electricity. You got to think of all these things. Anytime you plug something in that's making hot water, so you build it into the price and you probably make more money. Yep, cable, internet, it's all in there. Computer, Deb says, it's all in there. You got a cable bill. Yep, computer, you got a printer. Toner's about 150 bucks a pop. You know, so you got to control it too. All those things. Any other questions? We're going to about wrap it up here in another minute. Crystal's typing. Thank you. Crystal says all set. Thank you. Thank you very much, Crystal. Our pleasure. Give us a call anytime. And Deb, thank you. Thank you too. Give us a call anytime if you need anything. Okay, folks, have a wonderful afternoon.